What if I told you there's a place where one woman marries multiple brothers, where wedding nights involve entire families, and where this 1,000-year-old tradition challenges everything we think we know about marriage? Deep in the Himalayas, Tibet holds secrets about relationships that will shock you. The practice of fraternal polyandry, where brothers share a wife, emerged from one of the harshest survival challenges on Earth. Picture this scenario. You're living at 15,000 feet above sea level, where the oxygen is so thin that visitors often need medical attention just from walking. The growing season lasts barely 4 months. Farmable land is scarce and precious. Your family owns a small plot that took generations to develop and maintain. Now imagine you have 3 sons. In most societies, each son would inherit a portion of this land, marry separately, and start their own households. But here's the mathematical reality that Tibetan families discovered centuries ago. If you divide that precious farmland among 3 sons, each family unit becomes too small to survive. The harsh mountain environment requires intensive labor during the brief growing season. Herding yaks across dangerous terrain for months at a time demands multiple able-bodied men. Trading expeditions to distant regions can take weeks or months, requiring someone to stay home while others travel. The solution they developed: instead of fragmenting family resources, brothers would pool everything together by marrying the same woman. This kept the family land intact, combined the labor power of multiple men, and created economic units large enough to weather the extreme challenges of high-altitude survival. Dr. Sarah Chen, an anthropologist who studied Tibetan communities for over 2 decades, documented exactly how this system works. In her research, she found that polyandrous families consistently outperformed fragmented nuclear families in terms of economic stability, child survival rates, and long-term prosperity. Polyandrous households had 40% higher grain yields, 60% more livestock survival during harsh winters, and significantly lower infant mortality rates. But it's not just about economics. The environmental challenges of Tibet created unique demands that this marriage system addressed. During the summer months, yak herds must be moved to high-altitude pastures. This requires some men to spend months away from home, living in tents at altitudes where most humans couldn't survive for days. Meanwhile, barley and other crops require intensive cultivation during the brief growing season. Having multiple adult men in one household means these simultaneous demands can be met without compromising either activity. The trading aspect is equally important. Tibetan families have historically relied on long-distance trade to obtain essential goods unavailable in their high-altitude environment. Tea from India, salt from distant lakes, and manufactured goods from Chinese markets all required dangerous trading expeditions. These journeys could take months and involved crossing treacherous mountain passes where a single mistake meant death. Having multiple husbands meant someone could always undertake these essential but risky journeys while others maintained the household and agricultural operations. What's particularly fascinating is how this system manages risk in ways that modern financial planners would recognize. By having multiple income sources within one household, polyandrous families created natural diversification. If one brother's trading expedition failed or if he became injured or ill, the family's survival didn't depend entirely on his success. This built-in redundancy was crucial in an environment where individual failure often meant family catastrophe. The land inheritance patterns that developed around polyandry also show remarkable sophistication. Rather than fragmenting property across generations, these families maintained consolidated holdings that could support larger populations. Over time, this created more prosperous communities with better infrastructure, shared resources, and collective knowledge that benefited everyone. But here's where the real genius becomes apparent. This wasn't just about keeping families together economically. The system created strong incentives for cooperation, mutual support, and shared responsibility that extended far beyond individual households. Brothers who might otherwise compete destructively for resources instead learned to collaborate for mutual benefit. This cooperation pattern extended throughout Tibetan society, creating remarkably stable and resilient communities. Now that we understand the environmental and economic foundations, let's explore how these marriages actually function in daily life, because the reality is far more complex and sophisticated than most people imagine. In a typical polyandrous family, the wife isn't some passive figure shared among brothers. She's actually the central coordinator of a complex family enterprise, often wielding more practical power than any individual husband. Tenzin Dolma, a woman married for 30 years, explained it this way: "I wasn't married to 3 men. 3 men were married to me, and I decided how our household functioned. The wife makes most day-to-day decisions. She controls the household budget, determines work assignments, manages relationships with neighboring families, and has significant say in major decisions like when to plant crops, which animals to sell, or whether to undertake trading expeditions." Each brother has specific roles that utilize their individual strengths and preferences. The eldest might handle external affairs like trade negotiations and community leadership. The middle brother could focus on livestock management and herding operations. The youngest might manage household tasks, assist with farming, or pursue religious studies that benefit the family's spiritual standing. But here's the crucial part: these role assignments aren't rigid. They're negotiated annually and can change based on circumstances, personal development, or family needs. The wife's authority extends to intimate relationships as well. She decides which brother she spends time with and when. This isn't arbitrary. It's based on practical considerations mixed with personal preference. If one brother is working hard and contributing significantly to the family's welfare, she might show him more attention. If another is neglecting his responsibilities or treating her poorly, she can essentially withdraw from that relationship while maintaining her marriage to the others. Children in these families develop unique perspectives on family relationships. They call all the brothers father but often know their biological parentage. However, this knowledge doesn't create hierarchies. All fathers have equal responsibility for all children, creating robust support networks. Lobsang, who grew up in such a household, he said, "I had 3 fathers who each taught me different skills. When one was away trading, others were always there. I felt more secure than my friends from smaller families." The economic cooperation extends to household management in fascinating ways. Each brother contributes his earnings to a common pool, but they also maintain small personal allowances for individual needs. Major purchases require consensus, but daily expenses are managed by the wife without consultation. This creates a balance between collective responsibility and individual autonomy that many modern couples struggle to achieve. Conflict resolution within these marriages follows established patterns that prevent destructive disputes. When disagreements arise, the wife often serves as mediator between brothers. If the conflict involves her directly, village elders or religious leaders may intervene. The ultimate sanction is expulsion from the household, which effectively ends that person's marriage while leaving the family unit intact. The seasonal rhythms of Tibetan life create natural relationship patterns. During summer herding seasons, different brothers may be away for months, creating periods when the wife lives essentially in a monogamous relationship with whoever remains home. These separations and reunions create emotional dynamics that participants describe as more varied and interesting than single-partner marriages. The jewelry and ornaments that Tibetan women wear represent more than decoration. They're symbols of her status and authority within the marriage. Religious practices within polyandrous families also show the wife's central role. She typically manages the household shrine, decides on religious observances, and often serves as the family's primary connection to Buddhist practices. The brothers may pursue different levels of religious involvement, but the wife's spiritual leadership keeps the family connected to their cultural traditions. But these traditional patterns are facing unprecedented challenges as Tibet encounters modern influences and government policies that discourage polyandry. Let's explore what's happening to these ancient traditions in contemporary Tibet. Here's where the story takes a dramatic turn that most people never hear about. The marriage traditions that sustained Tibetan families for over 1,000 years are now facing their greatest challenge ever, and it's not what you might expect. The ancient practice of polyandry isn't just slowly fading away, it's being actively transformed by a generation of young Tibetans who are creating hybrid systems that blend traditional wisdom with modern realities. This isn't simple cultural loss, it's sophisticated cultural evolution happening in real time. The Chinese government officially discourages polyandry as part of broader policies promoting what they call modern marriage practices. However, enforcement varies dramatically between urban centers and remote rural areas. In cities like Lhasa and Shigatse, most marriages now follow monogamous patterns similar to other Chinese cities. But in remote villages where traditional lifestyles persist, polyandry continues because the environmental and economic conditions that created it haven't changed. This creates a fascinating cultural split that's reshaping Tibetan society. Urban Tibetans often practice cultural polyandry, where extended families maintain cooperative economic relationships without formal marriage arrangements. Brothers might share business enterprises, jointly own property, and cooperatively raise children while being married to different women. They're maintaining the economic cooperation that made polyandry successful while adapting to contemporary social expectations. Dr. Norbu Tenzin's recent economic analysis found that cooperative family units in Tibet generate 70% higher incomes than comparable nuclear families. Technology is also changing how these relationships function. Mobile phones and internet connectivity allow brothers working in distant locations to participate in daily household decisions. Video calls enable remote participation in family meetings, child-rearing discussions, and economic planning. Some families use shared digital banking systems that update all participants on household finances in real time. The traditional cooperation is being enhanced by modern communication tools. The children growing up in these evolving systems report unique advantages that researchers are just beginning to understand. They typically speak multiple languages, have exposure to both traditional and modern lifestyles, and develop strong networking skills for managing complex family relationships. Many go on to successful careers in business, education, and technology while maintaining strong cultural connections. But the most surprising development is how some Western couples are studying Tibetan polyandrous marriage principles to improve their own relationships. Relationship counselors in Europe and North America are adapting concepts like shared economic responsibility, negotiated role assignments, and formalized conflict resolution mechanisms for monogamous couples. The communication patterns and cooperative decision-making processes developed in polyandrous households are proving valuable for any complex relationship. Women's roles within these evolving systems show the most dramatic changes. Traditional polyandrous wives had significant household authority but limited external opportunities. Modern Tibetan women in cooperative marriages often pursue independent careers while maintaining family leadership roles. They're creating new models of female empowerment that blend traditional respect for family coordination with contemporary professional achievement. The legal challenges are complex and ongoing. Chinese civil law doesn't recognize polygamous marriages, creating complications for inheritance, property rights, and child custody. Some families address this by having one brother legally marry, while others maintain informal partnerships. Others are advocating for legal recognition of cooperative family structures that don't necessarily involve marriage but provide similar economic and social benefits. International attention to these practices has increased dramatically since social media began spreading information about Tibetan culture. However, much of this attention focuses on sensational aspects rather than the sophisticated social and economic principles involved. This creates pressure on Tibetan communities to either completely abandon traditional practices or defend them against misrepresentation. What's emerging is a new model of intentional community living that takes inspiration from traditional Tibetan polyandry while adapting to contemporary realities. These aren't marriages of convenience or desperation. They're sophisticated social experiments that combine traditional wisdom with modern innovation. The results challenge assumptions about what family structures can accomplish and how societies can organize themselves for mutual benefit. The global implications extend far beyond Tibet. As housing costs rise worldwide, environmental challenges intensify, and economic inequality increases, the Tibetan model of cooperative family structures offers potential solutions that mainstream societies are beginning to explore. What we've learned today fundamentally changes our perception of Tibetan marriage traditions. Far from being shocking or primitive, these customs, particularly polyandry, represent a highly sophisticated human adaptation to severe environmental and economic challenges. In Tibet's demanding mountainous terrain, the pooling of resources and diverse skill sets within a single family unit was essential for survival. Crucially, contemporary Tibetans are not static in their practices. They are actively evolving these ancient principles. We see hybrid systems emerging that blend traditional wisdom with modern realities, incorporating individual choice and professional opportunities. Examples include young women negotiating modern polyandrous marriage contracts, families leveraging technology for cooperation, and communities finding renewed value in these cooperative structures amidst modern uncertainties. These traditions offer invaluable lessons for the rest of the world. As global societies grapple with escalating costs, environmental degradation, and economic instability, the Tibetan model of cooperative family structures provides proven strategies for collective survival and prosperity. The principles of shared responsibility, negotiated roles, and mutual support, honed in Tibet's unique environment, could be vital in addressing contemporary social challenges. The true revelation is not the unusual nature of Tibetan marriage customs, but rather their development of social technologies for cooperation and survival. These are sophisticated solutions to universal human challenges that remain highly relevant today. Instead of dismissing them, we should recognize these practices as innovative and adaptable responses to enduring human needs. What surprised you most about the reality versus the misconceptions around Tibetan marriage traditions? Have you ever considered how environmental challenges shape social structures in your own community? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.